Guys, here's a few things that I did to become a millionaire. You can feel free to copy what I did and plug in what I did into your own plan. Let's talk about it. So let me lift this up for a second, guys. It's getting cold out here. Put that hat back on because it's kind of chilly. All right. So first things first, the very first thing I did to help me become a millionaire on a low income is I got laser focused on exactly what I wanted. In 2005 is the first time I remember telling myself that I want to be a millionaire. Now, what do I have to do to get to be a millionaire? Now, it took a while, it took 17, 18 years to get there. But guess what? Life happens, right? Things get in the way. You got to raise kids, you got to raise family, you got to keep doing the right thing over a long period of time. For me, it took a while, but once I got laser focused, it's like everything around me started to kind of line up in that direction that I was focused on. And then, along the way, you have to pay for college and, you make a few mistakes here and there and, things kind of get sidetracked and sideways for a year, 2, 3 years. But overall, ultimately, the more focused I got, the more everything began to line up. So that's number one. I got laser focused. Now, let me test how laser focused you are and stick around for all 16 of the rest of these guys. Now, the second thing was I was very, very consistent over a long stretch. Even when I had no money, I kept doing what I knew was right to do with money. The putting food on my kids' table, making sure they eat before I eat. Right? Giving and helping other people, paying all my bills on time, making sure the mortgage was paid and everything was taken care of before I took care of me, right? I just kept going. And you'd be surprised what happens in life if you just keep going and keep doing the right thing that you know is right. Everything ultimately will work out for you. God and his universe is designed to make sure that if you stay focused and you keep going, it's going to work in your favor. Everything is going to be okay ultimately, but you got to be consistent longer than you probably want to be consistent. Now, the third thing I did is I developed this attitude that said, you know what? I hate debt. I don't like debt. I don't want debt. I want to get out of debt as soon as possible. And guess what? I ain't going back into debt. So I made this vow to get out of debt and not go back into debt ever. I looked at my liabilities and my assets and I said, man, these liabilities are dragging down my ability to become a millionaire. So I said, I'm done with debt. Haven't looked back. Haven't needed debt since. Now, the fourth thing is I began to dream, right? I began to make sure I had a vision of what I wanted and where I wanted to go. So I was able to sort of see what was not always in front of me to see. I was able to look beyond the fact that, okay, I only have an extra $200 or $300 every month right now. I was able to look beyond that and say, man, what would it be like if I had an extra $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 a month? And so I had a little bit of hope the whole time when I wasn't making very much money. I had a little bit of hope the whole time when the expenses were almost the same as the income, right? So I say that to say this, you may not have a whole lot of extra money for food. You may not have a whole lot of extra money after you pay your rent. And you might be at the point right now when you're watching this video, you don't really have a strong, solid roof over your head. But listen, if you have hope and some dreams and some belief about the future, you got a chance. Because the poorest person is not the person with no money. See, the poorest person is the person with no hopes, the person with no belief, the person who can't dream, the person who cannot see beyond their current circumstances, right? If you have no vision, you're way poorer than the person who has no money. Now, the fifth thing that I did was I stopped using credit cards. 2011 or so is the last time I used a credit card. I don't use them, haven't needed them. See, credit cards for me represented like temptation. And so I said, I don't want to be tempted to swipe a card when I don't have the money. And that's just my personal preference. I never needed them, so I didn't use them. So I stopped using them because remember what I said, I don't like debt. So if I didn't like debt, it means I don't like long-term debt or the short-term debt that comes with using a credit card. Now, the sixth thing I did to become a millionaire on a low income, well, let's put it like this. I didn't make six figures on my job until I was 50 years old. And at the same time, my wife, she never made more than $50,000 because she works part-time. She never made more than $50,000 a year. So you have these two people with these very modest salaries, some would consider a low income, trying to build this wealth. But here's number 6. We built the wealth together. So we got in the boat and started rowing in the same direction. It wasn't always like that for the first 5-6 years or so. But after that, after we had our incomes separate, when we put them together and we started rowing in the same direction in the same boat, that's when everything got easier. It wasn't easy, but it got a little easier. It got a little bit better because we were going in the same direction. So number 6, the 6th thing I did to become a millionaire on a low income is we put our money together in one pot and grew it together and started paddling the boat in the same direction. Now, the 7th thing I did to become a millionaire on low income is when it came time for my kids to go to college, I sent 2 kids to college. One kid didn't want to go to college at the time, my oldest kid, but my 2 other children, sent them to college with scholarships, cash money, and they worked. So what I'm saying is I found creative ways to pay for college without getting a loan. And when they came out of college, they had no debt. Now, the 8th thing I did was I picked up some side hustles here and there. Yes, I worked at Eddie Bauer, folding clothes, right? I worked at Home Depot in the flooring department, right? Yes, I also had an eBay store. On eBay, in about 6 years, I sold over $100,000 in merchandise on eBay. Now, all of it wasn't profit. I was running about a 40 to 50% profit margin. So $40,000 to $50,000 extra to help pay for her college was huge. The point is that I did whatever it took to take on these side jobs and side hustles to make a little extra money to keep things afloat. Now, the next thing I did was I stopped getting car loans. Remember earlier I said I don't like loans. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna pay for all my cars cash after the year about 2010 or so. All my cars cash, all my kids' cars cash, right? Whatever it took, I didn't want to take out that loan to go get a car and have a car payment, because a car goes down in value. I didn't want to have anything around me going down in value when I'm trying to build up that asset side of the net worth equation to become a millionaire. So I've been focusing for the last 10, 12, 15 years on acquiring assets, things that go up in value. Now, how did I do that? Very practically, I stayed out of stores, right? It may sound weird, right? But I don't window shop. I don't go to the mall just to go to the mall. I don't go to the store just to look around to see what I may want. If I go to a store, I'm ready to buy. I don't think I've been in a mall in several years, right? I'm not out shopping, and I'm definitely not out window shopping, trying to see what's out there. Window shopping for me, it used to sort of mess with my ability to delay gratification. It kind of messes with my ability to be patient when it comes to purchases, right? So I just say, you know what? No more window shopping. And when I cut down on wanting so much stuff, I cut down on buying so much stuff. And that takes me to my 12th thing. The 12th thing is this: I adjusted my lifestyle to my income instead of trying to necessarily always adjust my income to my lifestyle. So I stayed living fairly frugal over these years and living below my means being my income. My income is here. My income is $2,000 a month. Okay, I'm going to spend about $1,500 a month. And I'm going to make that adjustment instead of going out trying to take on a bunch of extra things just to live up to a lifestyle, right? So the only time I did that, take on the extra jobs and stuff, was to pay for things that I felt were very, very important, like when the kids went to school. When the kids were going to college, I said, let me get out there and make some more money and work some side jobs to have some other income. But other than that, I just live below my means, and I live according to my income. Now, the 13th thing I did to become a millionaire on a low income is I never borrowed money from myself. Yeah, I had a thrift savings plan or investments that were growing and growing, but I made sure to never touch them. I never took a loan out on any of that stuff that it was growing. I just let it grow. In the year 2002, I had $10,000 that I transferred from a teacher retirement system that when I was a school teacher. I moved it over to the federal government, haven't touched it. To this day, that money I think has grown to over 300-something thousand alone. Just that $10,000 has grown by itself. So that was very important. You know, sometimes we get in these crunches where we really need some money. We got to have some money, and we want to borrow against what we're trying to grow for our future. So one of the things I made sure was to never touch the money that I wanted to be there 20 and 30 years down the road. I just let it grow. Now let's go to number 14. The 14th thing I did to become a millionaire on a low income is I got really organized with my money very early on. In other words, I did a budget, and I've done 362 straight monthly budgets in a row that have been written down on paper or on a spreadsheet. For the last 7 years, I've been putting my budgets, my monthly budgets, on a spreadsheet, a Google sheet, right? But otherwise, guys, I got organized with my money. And I did that through a budget, a written budget that was unique every single month. Now, the 15th thing I did to become a millionaire on a low income was about 10 years ago. I moved my house from a 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage. So for the first 9 years or so, I had a 30-year mortgage. And guess what? I only paid down the principal of my house by about $9,000 over the course of that first 9 years of having a 30-year mortgage. Now, in the last 10 years of having a 15-year mortgage, I've actually paid off about $100,000 of my mortgage just by going to a 15-year note. Helped me out and helped grow the asset side of my net worth equation. Now, for some of you, you may say, nah, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pay a little extra every month. But what I wanted to do back in 2014 is I told myself I want to force myself to be committed to pay down this house early. And the best way to do that is by forcing me, because again, rates were low. Don't get me wrong. Now, we weren't talking about rates in the 6, 7, 8% range for a 15-year mortgage. We were talking like 2.5 to 3.5%. So when rates were that low, I said, let's go to a 15. Let's not try to pay extra on a 30-year. Let's go ahead and put it on a 15-year and force ourselves to actually pay that thing off sooner. And in the last 10 years, it's knocked down the principal incredible. Now, again, this is how I became a millionaire on a low income. How you become a millionaire on a low income is up to you. Now, speaking of houses, number 16 is I bought rental houses early on in the process of trying to build wealth. And I've talked a lot on this channel about how I bought those houses wrong for the most part. I ended up keeping 2 properties that I've had for over 20 years, and those 2 properties have gotten paid down, and the equity on those properties has grown, and they've become a big part of my investment portfolio over the years. So I found a way early to buy some rental properties, held on to those properties all these years, and now those properties looked like a really nice investment that I made 20 some odd years ago. Now, the 17th and final thing that I did to become a millionaire on a low income is I stuck with a career long enough to be good at the career and to increase my level of pay in that career, right? I got the education, the certifications, whatever it took to continue to grow in one field. See, what happens to a lot of people is they jump from career to career to career to career. And when you jump from all those different careers, jobs, whatever you want to call it, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But just remember that a lot of times you have to sort of start over when you do that, right? So you get to the point where you were moving along in this area, but then you got tired of it 5 or 6 years later and you changed. Then you got tired of that. Next thing you know, you're 45, 50 years old looking for a new career. And what happens is you always stay at that base or bottom level in that career. You never move up to maybe become a manager or to move up the totem pole in terms of pay because you're switching around a lot. But if you stick with it, eventually you'll earn more income in whatever field or industry that you're in. Look, I'm a guy that had 20 some odd jobs by the time I was 30 years old. So me over the last 20 years, only having 1 or 2 jobs has been a big change. But guess what? It's allowed me over the years to make more and more money in that particular career field. Look, the point is this. I had to change some things. And ultimately, changing the way I think, changing the way I behave made a difference in terms of my outcomes. It gave me greater outcomes when it comes to building up money and building up wealth and ultimately becoming that millionaire. Look, anything is possible. Even the word impossible says what? If you break it down and put an apostrophe after the I and you put a space between the M and the P, even the word impossible becomes I'm possible. Look, I didn't do anything fancy. I didn't do any crypto. I didn't do any Forex, no weekend boot camps, weekend seminars, no credit card points. no whole life insurance that I borrowed from, no special math, no gifts from my parents. I didn't inherit anything, right? No loan forgiveness. Look, if you did any of that, that's cool. I'm not mad at you. But for me, I had to get it from the bottom. I had to grind my way up to become a millionaire from nothing. And I'm talking about nothing at the age of 30. I had a negative $30,000 net worth to my name, and I pulled it out of the mud. Now, I'm not saying everybody got to pull it out of the mud like that. You got to be thinking of ways you can get to whatever you want. Maybe you don't want $1 million. Maybe you want $2 million. Maybe you want 500,000. Whatever it is, I hope this video gave you something to think about and gave you something to work towards. Look, it's possible. Don't think that just because you have a low income, you have to have a low outcome. Feel free to copy my plan and put it into your plan. Look, if you got anything of value out of this quick video, smash that like button for me. But more importantly than smashing the like button, share this information, share the video with somebody who you know could use this information. Drop me a comment below and let me know what you think. Hey, the best person who's going to take care of that old you is the young you. Guys, take good care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.